Hello everyone, my name's Amanda. Welcome to my channel. This is going to be a short little video about shape-shifting. And I don't know about you, but most of the shape-shifting that I've seen has been in Hollywood. But you know, Hollywood movies often are caricatures of things that are real. And that's why we're drawn to them. After having a near-death experience in 2017, I've had periods of time where my third eye was quite open to see realms that were not physical. And during those opening times are times where I've seen people shape-shifting and had experiences where people have seen me shape-shift. And most of these experiences have happened when I have been in nature, when I've been away from the city, and my ability to process has slowed down to a much more natural pace. And that's just me. That's how it's come across for me. So a little bit about the, I shouldn't say the physics, but like the makeup of what's going on when a person shapeshifts. We all have obviously our physical body, flesh and blood, and then we have other layers of our invisible body that are kind of overlays of the physical body. And some of the layers are a little outside of the physical body. What's important in shapeshifting is the etheric layer, which is the next layer, the next closest layer to the physical reality. And that's why it's kind of like what people see when they can kind of like see in extrasensory, because it's like the closest to physical reality. And our etheric body, you'll know that you've been switching from your physical body to like an experience of awareness through your etheric body. If you've ever been meditating or woken up and you are kind of floating above your body, or you're like floating in a higher spot of your room, but you can still feel, like you still have strong awareness, you can still have feelings and sensations as though you're in your physical body, but you're like up and out of it. You know, this isn't super common, but if you've had that, you're in your etheric body. The next layer is the astral body, and we switch into astral body awareness when we dream. Okay, so etheric body is like something in the middle of like who we are in the dream state and who we are in the physical. And as you know, in the dream state, like we can switch appearances, we can switch characters and qualities very fast, like lightning speed. Etheric reality is somewhere in between like the density and the consistency and the hard contraction of the physical body and the astral body that can switch really fast. So when someone is shape-shifting, you're just kind of seeing more information. You're seeing more information about the type of qualities, the type of character that's informing that person's physical body, that's informing that person's moods, the way they make decisions, the way they show up in the world, kind of like what they're focusing on at this time in their life. And so our etheric body, that can have like a bit of a caricature to it, kind of like the Hollywood version, is very reflective of our state of being, our state of mind. It can change throughout life, for sure. But it doesn't change as fast as the astral body can change around, and it doesn't change as slow as like our physical body changes. So when we see a person shapeshift, if we have that sensory ability open, even temporarily, what we're seeing is kind of like a cartoony caricature flash of information with maybe certain colors or certain qualities that is really reflecting more about who they are. So you could have like a really calm, serene looking human being who's not causing any harm, and yet if you saw them shapeshift into their etheric body, you could see something really ugly. You could see something really ugly. And usually shape-shifting doesn't lie. Like around kind of discernment issues, usually what you're seeing when someone shapeshifts is kind of like what you get. That's not 100% true, but you can more or less trust your discernment. You can trust what you're seeing, but especially you can trust what you're feeling, because you'll also feel something from the imagery that the person is shapeshifting into. The first time I saw someone shapeshift, I was in nature. I was in a intentional community in Mexico, And there was a woman there who had, I would say, she had great qualities of leadership. Um, she also was like a bit on the controlling side, really dominant person. Not everybody wanted to be around this person. I just kind of kept my space. And we were having a meeting one day, and she was talking, and she was just kind of like talking to the different people, looking at the different people in the group. But suddenly I saw a flash where there was like a translucent overlay on her face that turned, when she looked at me, she she looked at me, and she had like a very like reptile scales, kind of like a, it reminded me kind of like what you would see in like a Star Trek character. Actually, there was just this kind of like other aspect, and I'm getting shivers talking about it. I got a little bit of interesting. So a reptilian shapeshift is not necessarily a negative thing, but it is showing that that person is operating from more of like a survival, a fight or flight, maybe attempting to be dominant way of being. Again, not judging or not bad, but that is kind of the state of mind behind that person. I saw, this is another one, I was in nature, and a total stranger was walking by, and she stopped to take a picture of some flowers, a little maybe like 20 feet away. And I was walking that way anyway, so I thought I'm going to walk up to her and take a look at the flower that she's found. And as soon as I got close, the overlay of her face, I could see the side of her face, it got to be like very bright and reflective, with kind of like these really beautiful shiny dots that were like this. And I know this is sounding like Avatar or something. Anyway, they were really beautiful. They were kind of like gemstones someone would put on their face for Halloween. And yeah, just really beautiful. When I got closer, she looked up and looked at me, and she had like a very calm, serene look on her face. And I realized she had acne, like all these dots of acne where I had seen, the shapeshift happen. So this is how the etheric body can can be a reflective of reality again. Another time I was with a friend, actually someone who turned into a friend, but I had just met this person. And at that time in my life, I was reading a really cool book about a woman who was like telling a story about when she was 12, and it was like a kind of like a fairy tale book. And in the book, she was talking about like her grandmother. There were stories about the grandmother and stories about her and her mother, and it was kind of like a 3-generation book about women, and had a lot of cool lessons. And in that book, I really like found a lot of my own qualities, things that I had gone through, the parts of me that were more like the wise grandmother, the parts of me that were like a big kid, and the parts of me that had like mother characteristics. I was really immersed in this book. Anyway, I was going for a walk with this new friend, and he stopped, and this was not a spiritual person per se. Like, we didn't talk about spiritual topics. It's kind of like a regular Joe. And he stopped me, and we were walking, and he said, his eyes got kind of wide, and he took a step back, and he's kind of weirded out, and he goes, "You're going to think I'm crazy. You're going to think I'm crazy, but something just happened. Like, what did you do?" And I had no idea what he was talking about. And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "Your face, you were still you, but you started to switch to like a really old woman, to like a young child, and then back to yourself." And it was like, it was changing. The way he described it, I realized he was seeing my etheric body. It was reflective of like what my focus was and what I was experiencing of myself at the time. So as we do our spiritual work of purification, meaning removing the illusions about ourselves as they are revealed to us over time, and dedicating to see the truth of ourself, all of the quirks, all of the challenges, all of the gifts, we start to see more truth in the outside world as well. And different gifts, they're going to be different from person to person, are going to open up different abilities, different ways of seeing. And we're going to see this more and more in the coming years, which is just one more reason to be dedicated to our work, dedicated to our shadow work, because the layers of illusion start to drop away. So part of that could be more people starting to have the ability to see others shapeshift. And this is a very cool thing for people who are dedicated to the truth, because that just gives us more information and data about the world around us. Oh, one other thing. Mystic Gigi Young talks about earlier civilizations of humans before Atlantis in Lemuria, based on her past life memories and ability to remote view across time. And she talks about the fact that yes, we were humans, there were humans on Earth during the Lemurian times. But the way humans were much less dense, much less contracted in matter. And so although we had our own identities, you would know who you were looking at and who you were in connection with, and we had like our own kind of character. The body was much less physical. It was much more able to shapeshift. In fact, our physical body hadn't yet been kind of like densified and formed, and we were only on Earth with our etheric bodies. So back then, there was really so much less hiding and less manipulation and less illusions, because when you saw another human, when you saw another person, you only saw their etheric body and maybe other layers of their body. So you really knew what that person was all about. It was like what you see is what you get. So this is, we're going through these cycles of time. There was like Lemuria, there was Atlantis, there was all kinds of civilizations along the way. And we had kind of like different levels of density and hardness. Right now we're at like a very, very, very dense part of history where we're actually obviously not that connected to our invisible bodies. We're not usually able to see people's etheric bodies. We're so far in density for that experience, for that learning. We're under a lot of illusions about other people and their intentions. And we often find out the hard way, especially if we're very trusting. And that is part of our development. It's part of our development to really have to learn boundaries and learn how to judge situations. And, that's something that we couldn't learn in Lemuria, because it was just like, it was right there. It was so obvious what people were all about, right? So you might have memories come back to you, maybe you already do, of that kind of a way of being and seeing the world with the etheric body. Yeah, so again, and this is kind of related to the content in the video about aliens that I recorded the other day. The people who are in positions of leadership, some of them who are not what they seem, who might act as though they've got good intentions, but they really have intentions for like control and manipulation. They understand, at least some of them do, on some level, that things are changing on Earth and people are going through an awakening process where their senses are turning on and they're able to do things like see people shapeshift. They're well aware of that. And many of them are aware of the times that it's going to become more and more obvious what people are all about, as more people can see and sense and discern these etheric bodies. So their time is short. I mean, it's not super short, but it's shortening for them to remain holding everyone under the illusions. And I was talking about how diverting humans' attention to flashy and dazzling technologies, including technologies where you merge technologies with the wholly organic human body, which is kind of blasphemous. They're going to be wanting in the coming years to really draw our attention away from developing these kind of abilities to see people shapeshift and work on ourselves and know thyself, towards really dazzling announcements, out there theories about space, announcements from NASA, announcements from the military industrial complex. Because if they can do that, if they can continue to like throw around illusions, we're going to be more focused on the dazzling, exciting, heart-racing discoveries and disclosures that they are throwing out there and offering, and less on what's real, like what's real for us. And to be honest, at least in my own experience, having these experiences, seeing people shapeshift and discerning interdimensional beings, those are not like everyday occurrences for me. And those things have only happened when I have been more in the portal of nature, where I'm not super busy and running around, where I'm eating clean. Often like for weeks and months after a plant ceremony, where my awareness is way more wide open up. So having lifestyle like this, or periods of time where you have a lifestyle like this, is a bit of a sacrifice, a bit of a commitment. It's not available to everybody all the time. So if they can get human beings to kind of like focus on the dazzling announcements, maybe holograms, that they've got going on, people are going to be less looking into truth, less looking into really the truth that their own discernment and intuition is telling them. So don't be somebody who gets dazzled easily. Question everything. And just back to the technology again, back in Atlantean times, like many of us have forgotten that we were incarnated and we lived during the times of Atlantis, but we did in other lives. And I didn't know anything about Atlantis before I started getting downloads and visions about Atlantis in 2021. But when I saw these past life memories and visions, again, I'm getting shivers talking about this, I remembered everything. This was not like I'm seeing a movie in front of me and it's new information and I think it's my past life. It's like, oh my goodness, I remember. I liken it to if you have ever seen a photograph from your early childhood when you were young, but you saw it only as an adult, and it was in a location that maybe you've only been to a handful of times, and you were like, whoa, I remember that t-shirt I was wearing. I remember that birthday party. Oh my goodness. Whoa, I've completely forgotten about that. That is for me how the Atlantean visions came through. I was like, oh my goodness, I remember. Oh my goodness. So when you get a past life memory or a past life reading or something like that, if it comes through like that, like extremely familiar, that's one of the main reasons you can know that it's accurate. Okay, so the technologies that I saw and remembered from Atlantis were not that different than, what we see in some of the Hollywood movies. Although I've never been someone who watches movies, really. I'm not into fantasy or anything like that. So seeing this stuff, like clear as day, caused me to remember and caused me to realize, and what I would kind of find out through other mystics after the fact over the years that would confirm some of these things, that technologies existed on Earth during the times of Atlantis that surpass the capabilities of technologies that we know, people like you and me, regular people, surpass what we know now. The difference was we're in a more dense, contracted physical existence now. So the technologies are similar, but we're using different tools. We're using different matter to work with the technology. In Atlantis, it was somewhere in between like the dense physical reality we have right now and the Lemurian kind of like shape-shifting etheric body, more of like a flowing, watery, airy existence. So Atlantis, there was like a little bit of both. We were still more physically dense, but we still had more access to be able to perceive and see people's etheric bodies. We had more access to the invisible realms. We could communicate more with higher dimensional beings, with spirit guides, as well as if someone wanted to communicate with lower beings. There was less duality. There was just more like what you see is what you get. We're in like a very deep duality experience now. But in Atlantis, there was technologies that have different qualities, that some of the technologies were more earth-based, you know, manipulating and using crystals and intention and different magical rituals that wouldn't really work the same now, because we don't have that etheric we're not tapped into that etheric thing that we were back then. That's why they're not working now as much. But the qualities of the people that were misusing that technology, the misuse of that technology to manipulate, create illusions, use mind control, invert natural symbols. You know, symbols are not bad. Symbols are not bad like you would find on some, you know, conspiracy channels. Symbols are just powerful portals. They're powerful tools that can be used. And so part of what was going on that I could see was the inversion and the harm used with a powerful symbol to send energy. There was like a real quality in the fall of Atlantis, the end of that civilization, of sending harm energy via magic and technology, via rituals and technology to just really control other people. And the momentum of that just took over. It got bigger than the people that were instigating the harm magic and the harm technology. It got out of their hands and it was too late. And again, I'm getting shivers talking about this. The last scene that I saw was spires, flying machines, energy flying through the air, this way, that away, this way, that away. Horror, like horror on the face and in the experience of the people that were causing the harm technology and magic. Horror on the faces of everyone who was just an innocent bystander, victim of this. But as the human collective, we were standing back in absolute horror at what we had created. And those of us who are committed to a path of truth are probably people who were committed to a path of truth back then too. It's like in us to like find the truth about ourselves, find the truth about situations. And so those of us who are willing to see and feel, we have like some kind of a resonant memory that we have to be very careful with technology, with these things, because of what happened there. Other people who maybe are more directly responsible for what happened there, it's too painful to take responsibility and remember what was created in those times. To take responsibility, no matter who we are, is really challenging, especially if what we need to take responsibility for has been like real catastrophical in some way. Therefore, nowadays, people who are pushing this intrusive technology, really wanting it to merge with humanity, they're not just motivated by money and power, although that is obviously a huge thing. They're playing out what they were up to back then because they never took responsibility and they never learned the lessons of what happens when technologies take over in one way or another and kind of like turn against everybody, right? So those are some of my memories, and thank you for listening. It's actually part of my journey to share these things because they have been in me. They're very powerful memories and lessons that no one is perfect in this. This is like a collective lessons for humanity. Yeah. And so what does this mean for us now, other than, constantly choosing our organic, sovereign, holy human form and not merging it with technology, not problem solving 100% with technology, not being creative 100% with technology. We talk about that for sure. not becoming a crazy conspiracy theorist that no one can relate to, but really standing behind what resonates for us as far as what is directly connected to God's source when it comes to technology, what is following universal law and the pace of nature instead of allowing technology to roll ahead. I mean, one person can't stop this from happening. However, you can decide what you want to participate in, what you are saying yes to in your will. And what we accept and say yes to now is going to really determine our personal future. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future on Earth or what it's going to look like, although many people have kind of sensed into really strong potential timelines. And a lot of the wisdom traditions speak of, and many of you know this, but a lot of the wisdom traditions speak of a bifurcation. The Hopi prophecies, the Hopi Indian prophecies especially, are a well-known one where there's a bifurcation where people either follow the path of God's source, following universal law, following the way of our future as humanity without taking direction and guidance from lower dimensional beings or AI, or going into more a dystopian direction that the harm magicians in Atlantis were headed. I do believe there's a potential for kind of like a bifurcation of Earth, to have pockets of people who have chosen to go back to the land in one way or another. And I don't mean going back to like the dark ages, but having more of a land-based existence, more of a migration out of like dense city centers. And then other pockets of Earth where people are very enmeshed in a dystopian kind of technological future. And it's all about free will. No one's forcing anyone to go in either direction. It's just like what makes the most sense for your soul lesson. Your soul's going to take you there. I don't know for sure. But I think that just being unafraid and curious and open to your highest possible timeline. What could that look like? What gifts do you already have? What are you developing? Like, how close can you get to your organic form without anything artificial and synthetic? Like, what is you at your very best? You know, I know for me at my very best, I'm like away on a retreat. I'm in a cabin in nature. I'm with like-minded people who are hoping the same thing, doing their work. So more of that. That's what we want more of in our life. And if we keep choosing those things, those kind of things, then we're choosing our future, because what we focus on and what we spend time doing now over and over, we're just going to have more and more of a future that's similar. Okay, so never be afraid of any of this stuff. So if I don't meet you person to person in this life, maybe I'll meet you in one of the outlaw communities. Maybe I'll meet you in one of the maverick communities in our beautiful future that we're creating together. So thank you for doing your part. Thank you for standing for Earth and standing for the holy human form of humanity. You know, you're not alone. You're not paranoid. You're who your soul who your soul has chosen to be in these past lives, and you're going to continue to choose in the future, currently and in the future, the highest timeline, the highest holy human timeline. Yeah. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being a maverick. So glad you're here. We're going to continue to find the others. You know, if you feel disconnected from the others who can see these subtleties, don't be discouraged. Just keep being yourself. Keep choosing what you need to choose, and they will start to show up more and more. You know, many of us have gone through long periods of time feeling like we were the only one, or the others were like only on the other side of the world in internet land. It's a slow process. It can be a slow initiation. We have to, sometimes our souls want us to, sometimes our souls are saying to us, can you do this even if you have to stand alone? It's a lot easier to always be with the group, with the tribe, you know, to hold to these values, to hold to the decisions for the children of tomorrow, creating a world for them, pockets of the world for them when we're with the others. And we will be with the others. But to prove that our money is, you know, where our mouth is, there are long periods of time where we have to stand with our holy human values 2 feet on the ground, and we're very alone in that. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's how we prove this to ourselves. And as we do that, we change actually our energetic field. We become more confident in these things. We become more grounded in these things. And no one would ever be able to talk us out of these values. So by the time you find the others, you'll feel that from them too. You'll feel that there's like no compromise. There's no compromise. That's, you know, that's what's waiting for you if you haven't found any of the others. It'll come. It's going to come. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching and for liking and commenting. Thank you for your journey. Thank you for what you are doing, even if you're feeling very alone in all of these things. Your energy and your awareness is helping support the whole collective who are on this path.